Are you someone that has made New Year's resolutions every year and you're excited and you get going and it doesn't really last long and you wonder if it's even worth it, and maybe even you stopped already and thought, this is all like a myth, it doesn't really help? Well, we're here to talk today about why you should utilize this time from an end of a year to a new one because of on how the brain functions. Maybe not with New Year's resolutions, but you do want to be aware of how you can utilize how the brain actually processes time, adapt to changes, and drives motivation, because you can utilize that and move yourself forward in your personal growth tremendously. Welcome. I'm Heike Fallon. I'm a certified personal performance coach, and I help my clients with their self-leadership, and reflecting on a year is a big part that I do with my clients and can be very powerful, but also thinking of changes as far as moving forward.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Shannon Passalacqua, and I am a life coach as well. And I specialize in helping women heal after miscarriages. And I love this topic because we're going to talk about the psychology of how our brain processes time and the importance of, I think, reflecting on the past and moving forward. And I have been one of those people who I go back and forth about New Year's resolutions. You know, I used to love them, and then I was like, I'm done with them. It's so lame. And now that I'm older, and now that I've done a lot of, I don't know, research, but, you know, I've listened to people and learned a lot more about, you know, the importance of it. I love it because I think it's such a great time to take time to sit back and say, okay, what I do this year. And we'll go deeper into that, but like I think it's important to start with what you were talking about, which is how our brain processes time and why it's important, and then that will lead us into New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, and the key is really to understand too, the resolutions are actually the latest part of anything that you want to do, because they don't really mean anything if you haven't done a reflection when it comes down to the brain. So first off, as I said, processing time, and that I find very fascinating because we have so many areas in the brain that are specifically for specific tasks and or processing. And time, there is not one center in the brain.
So there's no area in the brain that does this.
Does deal with time. It's multiple areas where the brain responding to input, but it's not, there's not a time center that helps us. So time is really subjective. And with that said, is the way the brain functions, it creates timelines of events. So things that we experience, it can put it in order, and because we have years and days, we can maybe label them with a specific date. But it doesn't need to be for this. It doesn't need to be like the end of a calendar year. We could technically do this in the middle of the year, decide every, July 1st is when I'm making a cut. But the key is this cut, or the end of the year, is very important for the brain to structure and organize all these events. So again, you could pick any other day, but I'm going to tell you, we're going to talk later about why it might be great to do it with everybody else together. But the key is that there is a end and a beginning, which helps the brain kind of organize this timeline better. And the other thing is that how we process time is with the circadian rhythm, right? We could night and day. So when it's dark, we know it's nighttime. When it's light out, it's daytime. That's how we kind of can put some time to it. But we don't know. Sometimes a minute feels awfully long, and sometimes a
like
minute,
when you're holding a plank.
Yeah, exactly. And a minute can be like so quickly gone, right? Depending on what we're doing. So there is no sense of time in a way to measure that. So, but here's the key: that end a specific time that we dedicate as an end and a beginning can help us structure our events, structure our experiences, and gain more clarity of our past self and as far as looking future self. And when we spend time to think, because who thinks about our past and new on like August 28th? You're not thinking about it, right? So it's the end of the year is kind of like a prompt, right, for yourself to go like, hey, you know what? How did this year go for me? And that reflection is so important to look at, because this is the second part. Now I'm jumping to the third, as I said it early in the order, but motivation. So when we're looking back and reflecting on events or accomplishments, and especially positive events, we have a certain chemical release, oftentimes dopamine, which also helps us to with motivation and feeling good about it. And that's why it's also important to look at the things that maybe didn't go so well, to see what did I learn, to shift that more into a positive perspective, because then we get the dopamine release. And that reflecting and dopamine release is, we have to do that in order, if we want to do New Year's resolutions and move forward and implement something new, we want to take that high of dopamine release and motivation in moving forward. So if you're not reflecting, you're not setting yourself up as well to moving forward.
Well, and I think that is the important part that a lot of us miss, especially, you know, when we're younger. We don't take that time. And this, I think what's important is to really sit down and do a self-evaluation and a self-audit. And it's not just a New Year's Eve, oh my gosh, what's my resolution going to be starting tomorrow? Like for me, it's more become a couple weeks to the whole month of December of looking back and saying like, okay, what did I learn about myself in this past year? Like, what did I learn in this area? What did I learn about myself in this area? You know, all the different areas of your life. And then look at that and say, okay, what do I want to take from that? You know, what do I want to take from that? What did I learn from that? Is there things that I want to continue? Or are there things I want to take out and change? How do I move forward? You know, how do I want things to look going through this next year? And what are the steps that I need to take to get me there? So it's not just a, you know, it's always, I don't know why, but for some reason it's always about weight loss or working out.
It is. It's the
popular. And it's like, it is. And you know, if that was going to be it for me, it would be like, okay, what did I learn about myself in this last year when I was working out and going on this journey of, okay, I really enjoyed lifting weights. It made me stronger. Do I want to add this in? Do I want to change this? Why am I doing it? Again, we've said this so many times, it's not so to lose 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds. It's so I can become stronger and da, da, da. But like, okay, what are my next steps moving forward? How's this going to look? Yeah. And for me, I try not to make weight loss. For me, it's more evaluating my entire, like the different parts of my life.
Yeah. But if somebody, that's what they would like to do, it's very important to go back and reflect on your year and look at if weight loss, maybe your thing that you want to change or address, then look back like, okay, what did I do well in the past year in order to lose weight? What could I have done better? What did I do that maybe wasn't serving me? And then actually getting more an intrinsic connection to why, right?
And I would rephrase it to health.
Yeah.
Not just weight, but like
that's
my overall health.
Yep.
Did I have energy? Did I, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a whole nother aspect, I think, of how we gonna actually label it, because that can have sometimes a certain expectation, and that can be challenging. But in general, going back and really connecting it to yourself and finding your true why, and have an intrinsic motivation and not so an inner motivation, not something that, okay, you know, I want to look a certain way, and because then, you know, my friends will look at me differently. and that's an external motivation, and that may not be strong enough. And so, and especially if you haven't done any reflection on the past year. So it helps really, as I mentioned earlier, distinguish a little bit more also your past self into your future self. So reflecting, and also then looking into, well, what is my greater vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to achieve, and why do I want to achieve it? So having those both addressed before even considering what changes, or if you want to call it resolutions,
Right.
what do you want to implement?
Right.
I
Like
still
where I
recommend
want
not
this
to.
to look like.
Yeah, I mean, I still recommend not to even call it resolutions, but actually consider it more consistent habits that you want to implement to make life changes. Because a
That
resolution,
doesn't really just flow off the tongue though, like
no, it
resolutions.
doesn't sound so cool. Okay, that didn't sound cool. But the point is, resolutions usually last to like mid-February, and then people fall off and feel bad about themselves because they didn't set it up right.
Right.
And because
then you got the shame.
they did not do the reflection, they did not do the intrinsic connecting to their why and their values, and did not really establish where their goal is and how they're going to achieve the goal with little steps and implementing that.
Yeah, so I would say like first step one is to get a notebook or piece of paper or whatever and write down the areas of your life, like
Yep.
Your career, or what your job or career,
Yep.
your home life, your relationships, your health, and really look at, okay, again, like what we said, evaluate how this year went and what went well, where did I struggle, and make those different areas and see like, okay, I did really well in these areas. These are the areas that I want to focus on. And then, what am I going to do next year? What do I need to stop doing? What do I need to take out?
Yep. Very
Right? Like, I need to stop doing this. I need to take this part out of my day. Da, 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 da. And what do I need to start doing?
Absolutely. That's what I do with my clients. It's called also the Wheel of Life. You
Oh.
can find it on the internet. It's like a circle. And if you didn't take notes right now for the for all the different areas, but it has the different areas, and you can rate yourself on a scale 0 to 10. But it helps just gaining clarity there, right? And the key part is, as we said, the brain can adapt to change. It's actually good for the brain to challenge the brain, to actually push it a little bit out of the comfort zone, doing something new, because it creates new neural connection or strengthens existing connections. So evaluating and analyzing the past year, as you just said, and then in addition, thinking about moving forward, really you can tap into that neuroplasticity that the brain has. And it's a great time, again, combining that with the dopamine release that you got, because you're motivated. And then if you plan that very well, you can create a change that will actually last.
Do you think it's important to make monthly goals? Like, hey, or like do you think it's important to make an overarching year goal and then break it down into monthly goals so that you can touch base with them each month?
Okay, I have to be honest, it's something everybody has to figure out. The big year goal has not worked for me yet,
That
ever.
seems too big.
It's too big for me. I do have a vision of where I want to be. If that's going to be at the end of the year or goes into the following year, I don't know. So for me, it's more like I've definitely I've done vision boards, I've done vision meditations to kind of gain more clarity of where I want to be. That doesn't mean I want to be at the end of the year at this specific spot. It's definitely a little easier to set a year goal for business. Now I've done that. That is a little easier, but for personal growth, I just have a bigger vision, and it's more fluid as far as a particular year. What I recommend usually, if you want to implement a change, look at the 3 months, because the 3 months is usually the crux of like where like if you've done something consistently for 3 months, you have a better chance that you will integrate that into your overall life, daily life. So have a 6 months, 3 months goal, and then really break it down to make it bulletproof. It's really about small, small, small. Make it a weekly goal. Those are the things that actually help you to and daily goal, right? Even if I'm doing, let's say, working out, if instead of thinking so big and going like, I gotta work out for an hour and a half 4 times a week, well, guess what? That's why you fail, because in 3 weeks you start getting tired from that because you're not used to it. So rather starting small, having small goals, start with like 20-minute workout 3 times a week, and then increasing as you go.
Right.
So breaking
To
it down
get
small,
to.
yeah. So breaking down and really skimming down the goals to be achievable and breaking them down and thinking not extremely long term when it comes down to personal development. Now, business is slightly different, and when you're talking numbers and things like that, it's definitely possible to, or easier, I
Yeah.
think, to set like an annual goal.
And I think something that we haven't talked about yet is the importance of why it's important to do it at the same time with people in January.
Yeah.
You know, we did say, you know, you could do this at any time of your life. You could do it at any time of the year or month and just say, hey, I'm going to do this and self-evaluate and move forward starting now. But the cool thing about doing it in January, on January 1st, is it's it's a societal thing, right? Like, do they, I assume they do this in other countries. This isn't just the United States.
Well, no, we have years. Yeah, I mean, of course,
No,
other.
I mean, but like, do in Germany,
Yeah,
do they do New Year's resolutions?
yeah.
Okay, so it's a
It
worldwide
is.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know every country. Maybe they don't do in certain other parts, but European countries do. But I mean, the U.S. and Europeans are differently
So
connected in
when
the
you
past.
are when you're connected to so many people throughout the world that are all starting anew and who have already self-reflected and are moving forward, it's great to do it with other people because that's a sense of community, and that's going to help us with our um, with showing up and accountability.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it would be great. Anybody listening? I know the Chinese New Year's is at a different time, so I don't know
Yeah.
that. So I don't know if anybody knows. I am not aware of what happens in other cultures besides European cultures, but it definitely is a part that you might, accountability partners and sharing what your ambitions are or visions are or changes you want to make can be very helpful in order to be successful. So
Mhm.
when you have a friend that is going to go, yeah, let's do this together, and maybe you guys are accountability partners, that can be tremendously helpful. So being in the creating that community feeling and the support can be super helpful. And there's, we all know the fitness industry definitely booms in January, February. So, I mean, that's usually when the gyms are super crowded, and then it kind of gets better towards the end of February. And that would be your sign, right? that if whoever is not there anymore definitely didn't prep very well on how to implement it. Another thing too is like tracking your progress, I think, is important as well to keep that dopamine release that we said, right? So tracking and also celebrating those small wins. Hey, you know what? Maybe you didn't do your hour workout or half-hour workout that you had planned, but hey, you did 15 minutes. That's
Yeah.
better than not at all, to keep the consistency going. So celebrating yourself, acknowledging your progress. Obviously, you need to track it for that. Or having streaks and
Which
that.
is which means that you're self-evaluating and doing audits throughout the year.
Yes.
So don't leave it to just December, January.
Yep.
You
100%.
know, plan. December and January is a good time to sit down and do like a big audit, but continue doing that throughout the year so that you can continue to make progress. And you might need to change things, right? You might look at your goals or resolutions and say, that was too small.
Yeah.
And, make it a bigger goal. Or maybe, hey, that was way too much. Life hit me hard and I'm going to need to change it a little bit. And that's okay.
Absolutely. Now, one thing to also, I think it helps to have this end of year, beginning of year. If you're someone that ruminates about certain things longer or has a hard time letting go of some things from the past, so that brings that psychological component again. And end of year can also kind of help to let go like, okay, this is the past. I'm okay now with letting go. Obviously we want to not, push things under the rug. It should be resolved or at least worked with. But to oftentimes this end of the year can help with the making this really a cut from a time perspective and go like, okay, you know what, time to let go, time to end this. And it helps to kind of think of a fresh start, right? And that's what gives us that motivation too. But it can be psychologically really powerful to let go and call that the past and moving forward.
Yeah. But you did make a good point about don't sweep things under the rug, because I do remember doing that with with my miscarriages, where I was like, well, I'm so glad this year is ending. I'm going to move forward and new year. And I didn't do any of my healing work because I was like, oh, it's a new year.
Yeah, so you missed kind of the reflection part and going deeper.
The whole healing part.
So that's why it's important, right? We want to utilize on how the brain functions. It's not about, oh, new year, just forget everything else. And here I'm going to do New Year's resolutions, Yahoo! And until mid of February, it's going to collapse and you're going to go back into your rut. If you do not do that reflection intentionally, like you mentioned before, so if anybody skipped over that, go back.
Go back. You gotta do the work.
You gotta do the work of intentionally reflecting on your year. Where were the highs? What were the struggles? What did you learn from it? What do you need to work on more? Or which ones, like you said, you have to let go?
Maybe that's a good point to say, okay, there's this part of my life that I'm not making progress in. And there's this part of my life that I think I probably need some more support.
Yeah, 100%.
Like all these other things I'm doing well and, I'm making progress. But this part of my life, I either need to talk to someone else. I need to, dig deeper. I need a therapist. I need a coach. I need someone to help me through that and to move forward. Yep. So that's a really good time to say, okay, now what? And not shame yourself for it and not get, not ruminate in it, but go, okay, well, that didn't go like I thought it was going to go. Or, hey, this happened. A lot of these things happened and I need help. I need to talk to someone else about that in order to be where I want to be.
100%.
Most of this is not, like we said, it's good to have community. Most of these things we can't do alone.
No, I mean, we're coaches, but we have our own coaches and our own support as well, because we oftentimes don't have the getting that perspective and somebody really pushing us to, think about something. Very important to do that kind of cut and letting go and truly being open for new changes. And again, also
therapists have therapists. When you become a therapist, you have to go through therapy. Coaches have coaches. We coach each other. We go through all of that. So it's really important that you remind yourself, okay, there's this area I'm struggling in, or this area I just want to keep improving in. I don't do it alone.
Nope, absolutely not. And that's why it's important to really do the area, start with that, figure out what areas in your life, how are you doing, do an assessment there, and then dig in deeper there. So yes, the New Year's changes can be really powerful. If you're doing resolutions, make them bulletproof. Think of it more as lifestyle changes and habits that you want to implement for the long run. Then you will be more successful if you really go in a little deeper. We're going to link the other video that we did before about New Year's resolutions and a little more on how to make it more bulletproof there. But awesome. So utilize your brain whenever you can, because we got it, and we're definitely unique species, the human species with their brain. So we have the capability to do that. Not a lot of other things can, you know.
We can change.
We can change, and we can reflect and analyze, and we can actually think of future and past and things, even though our brain does not have a specific area for time, but we can utilize it anyways.